So, trauma and struggle keeps people tied to religion. We're going to tap into that topic, dive into that topic, I should say, in today's episode. So get your drink, sit back and relax. This is the Unleashed Alchemy YouTube channel. I am Tamara Tamu, your fellow alchemist, your fellow magician, your fellow spiritual master, here bringing you spiritual guidance and spiritual wisdom to help you stay in your spiritual mastery and remember who you are. So let's dive into today's episode. So, there are trauma bonds that keep people tied to their religion, that keep people tied to church dogma and indoctrination. Okay. So we're gonna go over a few things. All right. So I want to ask you this question. And this is something that I experienced while I was tied to the church, while I was tied and bound to religion. Okay. So the question is this: what did unhealed trauma look like in the church? There was no resolution for the trauma. There were messages that were called sermons that triggered the trauma, but offered no guidance or no environment to help people heal from their traumas. Because many times people go to church or they join a religion because they're expecting to get some type of relief from some type of unwanted feeling, unwanted occurrence that's happening in their lives, something unwanted, people which cause people to join a church or join some type of religion. Okay. So also in the church, unhealed trauma looked like pity. What did that look like? Or what did that sound like? People in the church were always reminded of how bad their life was, of how bad their childhood was. And because they had suffered and they are suffering so much, that they are in line for one of God's biggest blessings. Okay. So how did these messages move about in the congregation and infiltrate the people in their lives? So imagine that you have a church. The churches that I went to, they weren't considered, mega churches, but there were hundreds of people. There were a lot of people in the church. Okay. So you have a mass of people. And so when all of these people are hearing the same messages, because again, everyone came in with some type of trauma, some level of trauma, some level of struggle, some type of struggle. All right. That they wanted to get freed from. All right. So as these messages that involve no resolution, as these messages that went across into the church, filled the church up. Okay. There was all of this pity. People shared that with each other, and they begin to develop friendships. I'll quote friendships because it wasn't really many of them. I won't say that all of the connections, that there wasn't some genuine friendship there, but more often than not, a lot of these connections were based on the trauma and the struggle. Okay. People developed connections, depending on how bad, one person's trauma story was, or how bad one person's story of struggle was. They shared those stories and constantly talked about those stories. And that is the energy that the church is fed off of. And that's the energy that churches even today feed off of. Okay. So these friendship groups were formed by all of these storytelling of how bad one's life had been, or how bad one's life was happening or was in the moment. So then the conversations became rooted in the struggle of daily life. And so many times conversations would be like, you got one person taking the turn sharing their struggle, another person taking a turn sharing their trauma, another person over here trying to outdo or out struggle or out trauma the other two people. So you have this back and forth. You have this conversation with all the struggle energy, all this trauma energy. Again, no resolution, no self-empowerment. And then when people stopped telling their stories, then it was, oh, don't worry because God is going to bless you this week. Oh, you're struggling so much because God is about to do something big and miraculous in your life. Oh, you've been having such a hard life because God is about to really do something big. So that was the conversation over and over and over and over and over again. So not only did people continue those bonds and continue those friendships to hear some form of encouragement, people returned to church every single service, or I should say every Sunday for every single service to hear the same message. Oh, perhaps this is the week that I get freed from the trauma. Perhaps this is the week. I hope this is the week I get freed from the struggle. But it continued. It perpetuated over and over and over and over again. So there were never any messages about empowerment. There were never any messages about alchemy, about being the creator of your own life, about being the magician in your own life. There was never any conversation about being the God in your life, which if we're talking about the Christian religion, right there in the Bible, it says, ye are gods. There was no conversation about that. There was never any conversation about using that identity, that God identity, that alchemist identity to transcend beyond struggle, to not only transcend it, but to end it, to begin to experience life in all of its perfection, in flow, in ease. The talk of struggle and trauma continued over and over and over and over again. People were locked in on that. And it's amazing to me how we, and I include myself, we were all locked in on that, but then wondering why our life was not changing for the better. Because that's where our energy was. That's where our focus was. So when a person leaves, when you leave religion, when you dissociate from the church, that same consciousness of the struggle, of trauma, it can carry out in your life after you have physically left. What does this look like? So here's the thing. You can either, two things can happen. People stay, which is my initial point was having that trauma bond. That's sometimes what keeps people in church for so long and tied to religion for so long, even though they know that their soul is calling them higher. Their soul is calling them to elevation. They stay there because of those bonds, and they think that it's friendships when really it isn't. It is not a pure friendship based on personalities. It is based on the trauma stories and the struggle stories that you have shared with the same people for so long. Now, when you decide to leave and you just say, you know what, whatever happens with those connections, so be it. I have to go. I have to follow my soul. Now, what can happen is if you have not dealt with and pulled the thread on that consciousness of struggle and trauma, it can carry out in your life after religion. So let's get into that. What does that look like? So here's the deal. You don't necessarily have to have a trauma bond or a struggle bond with a person. You can have a trauma bond and a struggle bond with life. Let me give you an example. Expecting the worst to happen in any situation. Your mind always goes to the worst that can happen. That is an example of existing with the consciousness of trauma and struggle. Having a trauma and struggle bond with life. Give you another example. Expecting the opposite of what you truly desire because you don't want to be disappointed. Yes, that is an example of a trauma struggle bond with life. Another example is not voicing your true desires to yourself or to anyone else. That is another example of existing with a consciousness of struggle. Attaching struggle to self-worth to validate your desires. So what does that mean? So in the example that I used with the trauma bonds that people make with people in church, everybody sharing who had the worst stories or who had the worst experience in life or who had the worst childhood. And being told, oh, because you've had such a huge struggle, expect something really, really big. As if in order to receive something miraculous or in order to receive something that is so great that you've never experienced before, that there just has to be some type of horror struggle story. That is a trauma/struggle bond with life. As if you have to go through all these tough things to be worthy of or to validate your desires. Oh, I have this. I'm going to use something very material, but it's something we can understand. I have this 10,000 square foot home because I was evicted from 10 apartments in my life, or I lost 20,000 homes. Well, that would sound pretty rough, right? But you don't have to have those types of experience to experience greatness in your life. Much of the struggle that we experience is unnecessary. All right, let me give you another example. Expecting, this kind of ties in line with what I just said, but expecting there to be hardship to have what you desire. So expecting to get what you desire to be difficult. As if getting what you desire to receive it with such ease and flow, that somehow that's wrong, that somehow that could never happen. You see, because we are programmed by religion, and we're talking about religion here, but religion has its way in programming to society to think that we can't have what we desire, that it can't come to us in the easiest flowy ways. Why not? If we can think that having what we desire has to come through some type of struggle, then why can't we believe or start to expect, well, maybe there's another side to this. Maybe I can have what I desire. through ease and through flow and through enjoyment. All right. So let me give you one more example. Always thinking there has to be a horror story attached to success. Do you not know that that consciousness blocks your ability to receive? When you get used to hardship, because that's what that is, when hardship and struggle and trauma become the identity that you walk in life in, the identity that you operate in life from, that is what you're doing. You're blocking your ability to just receive. Yes, you can take inspired action, but your action is going to come from a different identity. Your action is going to come from a different energy, a different identity, and from a different space, from a different consciousness. Your action is not going to come from an energy of struggle or trauma. It's going to come from an energy of, this is enjoying. This is it. I'm doing this because I enjoy this. I already know that what I desire is complete because I am the magician. I am the alchemist. I am the creator. So this is already complete. I'm doing this because I'm enjoying what I'm doing. That's a totally different energy than taking action from, oh my God, I struggle so much. I have to take action because I don't want to struggle again. So you see, it's completely different. The way that you take action is completely different. So, and I didn't expect to expound on this part of this video so much, but I think when we talk about receiving and being in flow, people get confused and they think, oh, well, I don't have to take any action. No, you will still take action, but it's in the manner in which, in the energy in which you move. That's different. You take, when you know that you are the creator, when you know that something is already complete, you're going to take action versus being in the consciousness of, oh, this has to be hard because I'm used to struggle or because I'm used to trauma. Nothing ever came easy. Nothing ever comes easy. You know, you got to take what you want. You take action. That's a totally different energy. So I hope that you can see I know that you can see the difference. So, trauma bonds in church. What keeps people tied to religion? The trauma bonds and the struggle bonds. And if you have left religion, you've dissociated from religion, I really invite you to examine how you're taking action. Examine your operating system. Are you operating from a place of trauma? Do you have a trauma bond with life? Do you have a struggle bond with life? Only you can answer that. The next time you take action, I don't care what it is. Why are you taking the action? What is your body telling you? Pay attention to your body. Why are you taking this action? Are you taking the next action because you're trying to keep from something happening? Also, are you, when it comes to you speaking your desires, are you speaking your desires as you see them? Or are you trying to water them down? Are you expecting? What are you expecting? When you speak your desires, are you expecting them? Are you expecting your desires in the way that you have spoken them? That's how you can test that out. All right. So that is it for today's episode. Don't forget to check out my offerings in the description box of this video. Everything that I offer is there. If you are looking for more one-on-one support, I am taking 4 more clients, okay, through the end of this year. all right, to be a part of my 12 session package where I guide you into your elevated spiritual mastery, period. So if you're ready for that, book a call with me so that we can talk about how I can support you more. The link for that will be included in what I offer and all the links that I offer. It'll be the first link. So check it out. Leave me a comment. Let me know your takeaways from this video. And until next time, cheers.